All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Javier Ortiz. I am your mentor throughout this program, Data Engineering by Udacity. For a brief reminder before we begin, as always, I just want to remind you that this is our study group, DEND session 963. Each week on Tuesdays, I'm posting a weekly roundup. This weekly roundup includes all the lessons that you need to go through that week in order to be on schedule, along with all the scheduled events for that week, such as the link for this webinar and the link to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. Also, some deliverables, for example, this June 25th, which already passed that's last Tuesday, was the Data Lakes with Spark project due date. And you have the Optimize Your GitHub profile, which I think is due today, Thursday. Right? So keep an eye on this, and if you have any queries, any questions, this is the place to ask them. All right? With that being said, let's start today's webinar. So today's webinar is webinar number 13 already. So 3 months down, we're getting into the last unit of content before moving onto the capstone project. And I'm really excited to start this data pipelines unit. All right, so today's webinar we'll be covering what is a data pipeline, what is data validation, what are DAGs, Apache Airflow, and then we'll do a DAG demo. All right, so let's get started. What is the data pipeline? So a data pipeline, the simplest definition is a series of steps in which data is processed. Right? So every time you have data and you do certain steps with that data, that is considered a data pipeline. Two of the most common ones are the ETL and the ELT. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. What that means is that first you extract the data from the different sources, which there can be many, and you transform this data, moving into a data frame, maybe doing some transformations to the columns, data types, whatever you need to do. And finally, you load these transformed data into its final destination, which is usually a data warehouse, as we saw two projects before. Then we have the ELT, which stands for extract, load, and transform. So here, the first thing that you do is you, once again, extract the data from all the different sources, but you load it directly into the final destination, all right? And which is usually a data lake. And inside this data lake, what you can do is take this data and transform it and leave it back into data lake. So inside of this data lake, you have the untreated data, but you also have the transformed data. So this one is an ELT. Right? Two of the services that we use for these two data pipelines are the Amazon S3 and the Amazon Redshift. So the S3, as you already know, is a web service you can use to store and retrieve any amount of data at any time from anywhere on the web. So this is just like a super big store, container for data. You don't have any processing power. I mean, you don't treat data with this, you just hold it there. And then you have the Amazon Redshift, which is a fully managed petabyte scale data warehouse service in the cloud. So this one, you can actually store data in its final state. You can query the data and you can process it, and it's fully managed, right? So it depends on what you need to do with it. If you just need something to store the data, and S3 is really good. But if it's something that it's already managed, that it can hold different databases and it can process some data, Redshift is your choice. All right, let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about data validation. So data validation is a process of ensuring that data is present, correct, and meaningful. What this means is that first you're making sure that data is actually there and that is in the correct way that you want it and that it's useful, right? And it's really important that data validation, that we automate it, all right? We want this data validation to be automated so that we can set it and forget it. And for example, ensuring that the number of rows in Redshift match the number of records in S3, that's a form of data validation. We're ensuring that data is present, is correct, and is meaningful. Or ensuring that the number of rows in a table are greater than 0, that we are not loading empty tables, right? Because that means that we cannot do anything with them. So these process of data validation, you want to automate it to be sure that your data is always present, correct, and meaningful. So this is something that needs to be part of your data pipeline. All right. Right. That moves us to our main subject, which is DAGs. All right. DAGs stands for Directed Acyclic Graphs. DAG. Right. So as the name says it, it's a graph. It's a subset of graphs. And the most important thing to notice here is that it has a direction. All right. So we start in a place and with our data, and then we do a process, and then we move to the next process, and then to the next process. But we don't have any cycles. So the data will never come back to the first process or to a process that it already has undergone. And these little circles are called nodes, and the edges are these arrows that establishes the direction of data. So this is a visual representation of the different processes that we want our data to undergo. So it will start over here, and depending on the process that we establish or a filter, we keep going with number 2 or number 3, and so on and so forth until we finish our data pipeline. So it's just an easy way of visualizing the different processes and the way data is going to flow throughout our data pipelines. All right. So one way one system we use to manage these DAGs, it's with Apache Airflow. Apache Airflow is a platform to programmatically author, schedule, and monitor workflows. It is written in Python, and it's really easy to visualize the DAGs. So basically, we write a script, and through Apache Airflow, we can specify how often do we want to run this script that basically setups and keeps running our data pipeline. So that's a good way to author it and schedule it, and then monitor if we have any failures or any mishandlings of the data. It's an easy way to see where in the process that happens. All right, with that being said, let's move to our first DAG demo. All right, so I'm here at this unit, data pipelines, and I'm going through lesson number 1, and we're going to go with exercise number 1, Airflow DAGs. So the first thing that you need to remember is that you need to set up Airflow here at the workspace. You just copy this little line of code, and when we move here into the code editor, here in the bash, you just paste it. Press enter, and as you can see, it imports Airflow into our workspace. Cool logo. Takes 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and it is done. All right, so let's go through the different parts that make up a DAG. So first, it starts as a simple script. Here you can import all the different libraries you're going to use, and from Airflow, I'm importing this DAG that I'm going to use, and this Python this DAG will allow us to write the DAG, to set it up with Airflow, and this Python operator will allow us to call any Python function that we code here in this script. So here we're defining the function in Python as you would always do. Here is using the login.info hello world, just if you want to see it in Airflow, but you can very well use print hello world. And then we're setting this variable DAG equal to, and we're using here this function DAG, which will establish the name of our DAG, which is lesson1.exercise1, and establishes the start date for a DAG. And here we're doing datetime.datetime.now, basically saying started at whatever time is it when I run this code, started at that time. All right. So this is the name and the schedule for our DAG, and we are loading this into this variable, DAG. All right. Then we're going to build a task, which is a node of our graph for DAG. And this greet task, we're going to use a Python operator, and we're going to name the task hello world task. And here we're going to call the Python callable the function hello world. So this references this function over here. And here, the DAG that this is part of is going to be this DAG, the variable matches. So it's really simple code. It's just one node, and it just calls this Python function, and that it's it. Okay, and we're going to call it one time at whatever time we press play, we run our DAG. All right, so once you have this already written, you can access the Airflow interface with this button, Access Airflow. Right. Right. And here, you can turn on all the different DAGs that you want to be running at the same time. And here you can see the schedule and the owner. And here's a way of visualizing the task and the last run. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press trigger DAG. Okay. And here we can see that it is running. Right. I'm going to refresh just to see that. And we can see that it ran correctly. Awesome. So it's simple as that. But now I want to move on to the hardest exercise in this lesson, which is exercise number 6. And not because of the code that you have to write, even though it's a little bit tricky, but because of a connection you have to make with AWS. So here you're importing a bunch of libraries, and I mean the code is not I mean it is important obviously, but it's not the thing that I want to focus on today. So here what we want to do, we want to connect to a Redshift to AWS, and I'm going to access Airflow here, and we're going to follow the instructions to make a connection, provided at the project info. So if you don't know how to make this connection, you can just go here to project data pipelines, and here step number 3 tells you how to add Airflow connections to AWS. So I'm going to follow the instructions. So you go here to where it says admin and where it says connections. Here in connections, you're going to press on create. And first we're going to connect to the AWS. So you press here, you can enter AWS underscore credentials, and connection type Amazon Web Services, AWS. And then we go to login, and here in login, you're going to enter your access key ID. That's from your IAM role. And in password, you're going to enter your secret access key, also from your IAM role. And once you're ready with that, you're going to press the save and add another. All right, I'm not going to do it because I cannot show you you're not supposed to show publicly your credentials. But once you have that, make sure to press save and add other. And then we're going to keep going. So it's going to send you to another page that looks exactly like this one. And in connection ID, you can name your connection, which I'm going to name Redshift. And the connection type is going to be Postgres. So we select that. Host, you're going to enter the endpoint string from your cluster, right? So it looks like this. If in AWS you search for Redshift, and it will send you to the Redshift dashboard where you can see the different clusters that you have set up. You press on the cluster and it will show you the endpoint. So you copy and paste that here. Make sure that you don't add the semicolon at the end nor the port. All right, so where it says .com, you end the string right there. All right, then in schema, you write down the name of the database, which is shown here as well. In this case, the database is called dev, so you can use the Redshift that you created in the previous for the previous project. Then login, enter the username, the master username, which is AWS user in most cases. And password, you're going to enter the password you created when launching your Redshift cluster. So make sure you remember that. And if you don't remember it, you should have it in the last project. And finally, the port, which is the 5439, which is the standard for Redshift. Then you press save, and that's it. It will send you back to this list. If you scroll down, you should be able to see it as Redshift. I don't have it because I didn't fill it out right now. What I've noticed is that each time I need to set up my Airflow connection, I need to set it up again. So each time I need to load Airflow, I need to set it up again. And then when you go back to DAGs, make sure to turn off all the other DAGs. You can turn on the lesson 1 solution 6 and trigger DAG, and it should load. All right, so this is like the trickiest part of it, but just follow the instructions that you can find here at the project. So the cool thing about this DAGs that I didn't show you, but let me, we can see it here. If we press here in the DAG, you can see the graph, and which makes it really easy to see what part of the process, what part of the data pipeline has it run successfully, or is it running, or if it's failed, if it's skipped or scheduled, whatever you need to do with it. So that's good. Well, that's it for today's webinar. Hopefully you have everything you need to complete lesson number 1. Next week we're going to cover lesson number 2 of data pipelines. Let me show you the unit right here. Right, and so we're going to cover data quality, and the week after that, production data pipelines. So give your best effort. You have 2 projects in this unit as well. The second one is about LinkedIn, which shouldn't take long. But we have a couple of weeks to actually 3 weeks to get to finish this project data pipelines. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me a DM. Don't hesitate to write on the study group through Slack, and I will see you around. Bye-bye.